Let's get things started! This hand of mine glows with an awesome power!
Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to the G Gundam podcast, because Drak has run out of any kind of creativity and he can't name a podcast anymore. I'm your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drak. I don't know why I keep on talking down about myself, but I keep on doing it nonetheless, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Andrea. And, Andrea, it's time to start the second half of this series. So we officially did that. The final round has begun, or the final battle. We call it the final round, but or the final round early on, but it's technically like a whole other set of battles that happen. And so right off the bat, like, what were your expectations walking into the final the final rounds of the Gundam fight?
It's gonna be exciting.
Yes, very exciting. Did you expect like a tournament?
Well,
kind of thing?
I was expecting something like that.
Well, I mean, this is like the closest to a shonen anime that Gundam has ever gotten. Because I wouldn't call Gundam a shonen anime. Shonen anime are popular stuff like Dragon Ball, Naruto, Yu-Gi-Oh! Would be considered that. But it now has this trope of a tournament arc that is going to be happening. What's even better about it is that apparently in the universe of G Gundam, 20 episodes, or at least 24 episodes, counts as 11 months in a timeline. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Like, I even tried to figure it out in my head today. I'm just like, okay, so one episode a month? No, that doesn't make sense. No, like half a month? No, that doesn't even make sense. And I've officially given up. I can't even figure out how much that is supposed to be, but we have lots to go over and such little time to do it in. So let's go ahead and start things off with episode 25, which I unfortunately lost in my episode count. All right, there we go. Episode 25, all fighters gathered, the final battles begin. So, for lack of a better term, this is a clip show. All right, so like they spend a lot of time kind of doing the pomp and ceremony, because the whole basis of this episode is the opening ceremonies of the final battles in Neo, Hong Kong. And so at that point, it's a glorified clip show showcasing all of the Shuffle Alliance members, as well as showcasing some of the other Gundams that may have gotten a spotlight here and there, as well as showcasing some of the new Gundams we're going to be seeing in the final rounds. So at that point, let's just kind of go down the line. You got to see stuff on Gundam Maxter, Dragon Gundam, Gundam Rose, which, by the way, like, so we got to see all of their introduction, like when they get into their fight suits. George is just, it still doesn't compliment him. It really doesn't. He looks even more feminine.
Yes, it does.
Chibity still looks okay. Like, he's got that big old star on it, which, by the way, when the mobile tray system is going down on him, wow, that was a horrible way to put it, but like, when the mobile tray system is getting put on him, he actually kind of pops through the star. So why is the star on his chest? I've always wanted to know that. And then you also have the meditation from Saisaishi, which in my opinion is one of the better ones, because it does kind of symbolize Shaolin. And then you also had Argo, but oh God, George. Oh, it just doesn't help him. It doesn't.
I know.
It really doesn't help him out. But yeah, so we got all of those, and then we also got the highlight of Domon Kashu, and also that Neo Japan is debuting the new Burning Gundam, which nobody questioned, even though nobody else was bringing in an upgraded Gundam. Well, I guess technically one was bringing in an upgraded Gundam, but every bit of clip show that was done for this was the Shining Gundam. And also, like, Domon's amazing confidence in his new Gundam, and the fact that Shining Gundam is still with it. So the three are now one. And they actually go even further by symbolizing that with Domon's face slowly getting surrounded by the Gundam's head. So, like, they are one. But then some interesting things start happening with that. I want to kind of go over that really quick. Did you like the clip show kind of highlighting the Shuffle Alliance members?
That was pretty cool.
It was. I think that Burning Gundam didn't need as much highlight, especially when they highlighted the whole Guyana stuff, because the premise is that if you're watching this, you probably already saw the previous episode. You saw Shining Gundam get impaled. You saw Shining Gundam getting left in the Guyana Highlands. And of course, you saw how in order to download battle data, your Gundams have to hold hands.
Yeah, that's still cheesy.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I still love the glory picture of Burning Gundam holding Shining Gundam's body. That's still pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's corny as hell. I have no problem admitting that. Then we start going into some of the other Gundams that we're going to be dealing with in the final round. First of all, Neo Canada's Grizzly Gundam. So Andrew Graham is back. He apparently didn't lose. And it looks like he's still got a bit of a grudge with Argo, and Argo's kind of welcomed that. So that's kind of cool. And we also should point something out. We actually got to hear all of the reasons, once again, in case people didn't know them, for why the other Shuffle Alliance members are fighting. So Chibity is fighting to pursue his own American dream, basically become the perfect American success story kind of thing. George is fighting for the honor of his nation and for Miss Marie-Louise, who they really need to stop showing because she's annoying to look at. Let's just all be honest. Saisaishi, who is trying to revive the Shaolin Temple, and Argo Gulski, who we now have kind of learned, if he wins, he not only gets his freedom, but he also frees his fellow space pirates. So that's kind of something that was hinted at, but it was never really confirmed. Mm-hmm. That is why Argo fights. He is fighting for his own freedom as well as the freedom of his space pirate buddies. So that being said, we go into a lot of the Gundams that we've seen already. Neo Greece's Zeus Gundam. We also see Neo Holland's Nether Gundam, or what is it they called it? Hurricane Gundam?
Yeah, something like that.
Windmill Gundam. That's what it is. It's a giant windmill. We also got to see Neo Norway's Viking Gundam, Neo Spain's Toro Gundam, which still looks silly as hell, a giant bullhead in the middle. We also got to see Neo Finland's Mermaid Gundam. That was interesting, right? It basically looks like a Gundam was kind of fitted over a fish's body. And then we also got to see an interesting shocker reveal. Neo Italy's Neros Gundam and Neo England's Royal Gundam with Michelob Chariot and Gentle Chapman as the pilots.
I don't know how they...
Wait, didn't they lose? Their head sections were destroyed. They're like the 2 victories Domon has to his name. Why are they there? It should officially be in the record, right? That they lost. But no, they're there. They are there.
Not unless of Master Asia somehow, bribed. I don't know.
I don't know, but now that you've brought that up, the other one that we got highlighted was Master Asia, who last time we saw him, he was blowing up. So, Master Asia's back with Master Gundam. He's the only other one that has an upgrade because he went from HAL Gundam to Master Gundam. And they even showcased one of the greatest highlights ever, which was your favorite scene. Launch me, Domon!
Yes. Who can
Sir. Yes, sir! So yeah, we got to see that moment again. But he now has some new hardware, as he now has a mechanical horse called Funsaiki. What did you think of that? Like, you have 2 Gundams here that now, like, one of them has a chariot with a mechanical horse, and then you also have Master Gundam now who has, like, this mechanical steed. What did you think of that?
That was an awesome...
You like that idea?
Yeah, that was
You like that? They also kind of hint that one of the lights that Domon saw while he was coming in looked like it might have been Funsaiki. So, like, because the last one was like a horse. So it's either Zeus Gundam's chariot or it was Funsaiki with Master Gundam. We don't know which, but we know it looked like a horse. So, okay, so we have all of these there. I'm trying to think of any other Gundams that we missed.
And, Schwartz is back.
Oh yeah, and Shadow Gundam as well, and he got a little bit of a highlight too when they were talking about him, and his contribution to Shining Gundam. So we have that, but after which, when Master gets debuted, and like Neo Hong Kong's announcer is blowing him up. He is the greatest fighter ever, and he has even said if he wins this tournament, he shall become the master of East, West, North, and South. He shall become Super Asia.
That was just
Master Super Asia. That's the like really?
That's a corny title.
I know, right? It's like I love Master Asia as a villain, but even I have to look at that and go, Super Asia? Really? Like, why don't you just add a duper at the end of that? Because it's derpy. Doesn't really work. But this apparently triggers Domon, and Domon immediately says, in order to get to you, I will win all of my preliminary matches. Which then causes an eruption from all of the other Gundams. Because that is, like you were about to say, that is a pretty bold claim.
I know, because I'm just like...
Now, granted, Domon is the main character, so is there a chance that that's not going to happen?
I can't see that not happening, but it just seems like that's a big if.
Yeah, it is a big, ginormous if, but it's clearly in Domon's character. He would totally make that claim against his master. Mm-hmm. So you have that moment, but I love that every Gundam there, including the Shuffle Alliance, they're all pissed at him for making that claim. Like, you're going to win all of your preliminary bouts. Are you saying you're not going to fight us again? And you don't think we're not going to fight tooth and nail to win that round? Are you kidding me? Like, our nations are watching now.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think when this moment happened? Like, did you think, like, was it just Domon, you're an idiot, or?
I think they were just probably like face palming.
No, I'm asking what you thought of it. What you thought when Domon made the claim of, like, I'm going to win all of my preliminary matches, and you saw the reaction from all of the Gundams.
I would have just face palmed.
Yeah, that's a facepalm worthy moment, especially if this is your first ever Gundam fight, which, as we're kind of finding out, a lot of the Gundams there, it's not their first time fighting in a Gundam fight. So at that point, it's a really bold claim. Oh, and I just barely remembered, we forgot a couple of other Gundams that were also unveiled there. Neo Kenya's Zebra Gundam, because of course, Africa, zebras. We also had Neo India's Cobra Gundam, which was kind of cool looking.
Yeah.
And then we also had Neo Nepal's Mandala Gundam, or Mandala Gundam. I'm not sure how it's supposed to be said, because, like, even amongst the forums, there's a question as to its actual pronunciation. So you got to see those two. But after this bold claim happens, we now get to see the Prime Minister of Neo Hong Kong and current ruler of Earth and Space, Wang Yunfa. And this is a character that we want to keep track of, so we'll go over him really quick and your thoughts on him. He is like I said, the Prime Minister of Neo Hong Kong, which means he's the ruler right now. He is the one that governs all of Earth and Space. And he is also presiding over the 13th Gundam fight. I keep on saying it's the 16th Gundam fight, but apparently it's the 13th. So the 13th Gundam fight. And when we get to meet him, well, first of all, your thoughts on him. Like, what was your initial reaction to Wang Yunfa? And then also just, like, given what we learn about him later.
You would just think that this is a guy who's just, he's just going to look at this as a neutral thing. We're just doing this. But it just seems like he's trying to, like, him and Master Asia, they're...
Well, you could definitely tell there's an air of arrogance around him.
Well, yeah. But
like, he is thoroughly convinced he has the best fighter there.
It's just kind of like looks are deceiving sort of thing.
Yeah, and so at that point, like, he's very confident that Master Asia is going to take this. And so at that point, he doesn't hide it. And in fact, you could say that he does introduce some new rules, and those rules might complement Master Asia. Mm-hmm. So at that point, let's get into that. So basically what's going to happen from here on is there's going to be a bunch of preliminary matches where people are going to get all the Gundams will have a win-loss bracket, and the person who earns the most wins or points or however he pronounces it, they will then be selected to go to Lantau Island. It's an island that's a couple of miles off the coast of Neo Hong Kong. They will go to Lantau Island, where they will partake in a battle royal to determine the winner of the Gundam fight. So what we're basically thinking here is of the Gundams that I think it's safe to say, there's probably about 20 Gundams there. They're probably looking to cut that down to maybe 10, and those 10 will fight on Lantau Island to determine the winner. But he also introduces a couple of new rules, which goes against a lot of the regulations that we've known so far. The first of which being a Gundam can be repaired regardless of outcome. Like, in the original Gundam fight, if you didn't have the parts, then it sucked to be you, kind of thing. And your head section must, be handed on a silver platter, kind of thing. So you couldn't repair the head section. If you lose your head section in this, you can just repair it, and you can go into the next round. So already it's perfect for the tournament, because then we could see a number of other Gundams without having them being eliminated. But it's also like, this is a big rule that's supposedly in the main code of the Gundam fight regulations. So did that throw you off at all?
It's like, if something was damaged, especially if it had to do with the head, how are you supposed to determine if they're...
Well, and they can be repaired at any time, almost accounting for a Gundam who has an ability to self-recover. You could almost say, like, that Wong probably knows that Master Gundam can self-recover, and hence why he said at any time. He knows that it can self-recover, and therefore he's very confident it'll win. Could you say that?
Yeah, not unless if he knew Master Asia had that ability with his Gundam, so that way it's like, well, then I guess I have to be fair with everybody else.
I think he has to know at this point. That's what, because like the biggest, I can get the whole, you can repair them after the fights, okay? But he said you can repair them at any time. So at that point, basically justifying self-recovery into the fight. The second rule is even more dangerous, as the cockpit may now be targeted as a means to win the fight. So you can potentially kill the pilot in these fights. Which that threw everybody off, right?
Yeah.
It was like, wow, now the pilot is in huge amounts of risk in these fights. And then finally, the third one is whomever wins this tournament, the 13th Gundam fight, the Gundam that's last standing will be considered the Gundam of Gundams.
Didn't he also say, like, you had to fulfill the requirements of the other two rules or something in order to...
Which two rules?
Well, the other two that he mentioned that you had to...
Well, yeah, if you survive from those, and then you go on to Lantau Island and you're the last Gundam standing, you will be called the Gundam of Gundams.
True.
The rules specifically almost make you think, okay, the first rule, he knows that Master Gundam can self-recover. And so at that point, he's rigging it in Master Asia's favor. The second one, maybe he knows that... maybe Master Asia has said to him, like, I'd rather have fights to the death than anything else, and so that's why he's saying the cockpit can be targeted, so that Master Asia can do as he pleases. And the third is Gundam of Gundams. Basically, if Master Asia is going to become the master of East, South, West, and North, and become Super Asia, then he might as well have the Gundam of Gundams, right?
Yeah, because otherwise... Master Asia can't participate with that Gundam.
That's the other fun fact about this. Master Gundam will not be participating in any of the preliminary bouts. He's basically got a guaranteed spot at Lantau Island. So, like, Master Asia can observe the fights, but he doesn't have to take part in them. Almost kind of hinting at, like, oh, well, we don't want to show that he could self-recover early. And then we could show that trump card when he's on Lantau Island in the Battle Royal. Because, I mean, if you saw that your Gundam could self-recover, Wouldn't that change the betting pool?
Yeah,
a little bit?
I'm pretty sure the only ones who would know that would be the Shuffle Alliance.
The Shuffle.
Are the
Well,
only
Domon would.
Yeah,
Domon has seen him. I don't think the other 4 have. I don't think the other 4 have. Well, maybe when they were possessed. Maybe when they were possessed, they saw that that Master could self-recover. I don't know.
And
it's safe to say.
And Schwartz. Probably.
Schwartz would probably know.
So they're like the only ones who may know about that.
But the other Gundams wouldn't.
Yeah, so that's...
And it's not like... And unfortunately, I don't think Minister Corrado is letting anybody say it. Mm-hmm. Because, the Dark Gundam is kind of a stain on Neo Japan. So they're kind of keeping under wraps. Like, they think the Dark Gundam's done and they don't have to explain anything. So to move things along, so we have these rules explained. It's throwing everybody off. They're already thrown off because of Domon's claim that he's going to win all of his preliminary matches. And finally, we get into the opening ceremony itself, which Wang Yungfa asks both Master Asia and Domon Kashu of Neo Japan to initiate, which they do their secret handshake again, which I was happy to see again. I love that.
I mean, it was great, but it just seemed like awkward. You're like...
Yeah, they hate each other now. And so it's like, but I was happy to see it again. Because it is a cool moment. Like, the School of the Undefeated of the East, the Winds of the King, Senshin, Keretsu, Tenpa Kyoran. Look, the East is burning red. I like that moment. And it was cool to see it in the Gundams. Mm-hmm. And then eventually they both use their fingers, like their burning finger, their darkness finger, to light the torch. Which was a cool moment. So I like that moment. I get your point of like they're bitter enemies at this point, so why would they do a secret handshake? But
it's like
the audience doesn't know that.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, oh, if I must.
Yeah, I think it was like Domon didn't want to, but he was asked to. Mm-hmm. And at that point, if he had said no, I'm pretty sure Ulube and Corrado would have had a few things to say to him.
True.
So he's like, okay, fine, I'll get over this because I can do this one more time. And all the way that Domon talked, like a lot of people wouldn't get the animosity between Domon and Master right now because they haven't seen it. So a lot of the stuff that Domon said, it could just as easily be an arrogant pupil calling out the Master. Mm-hmm. So at that point, that's the way that we can take it. They all take their oath, and that pretty much ends the episode. And gets ready for the final round, and they go off to celebrate and stuff like that. So final thoughts on All Fighters Gathered, the final battles begin. For a clip show, it's not bad. I've seen far worse Gundam clip shows.
I would say it was at least a 3 for me.
It's a 3 for me. Like, I've seen clip shows that were boring as hell. My perfect example of it is, a later series, Gundam Seed, they had 4 different movies, and the movies were clip shows. And they're bad at it. Like, it's boring. You don't, like, if you're going to see an anime movie, you're expected to be entertained, right? Boring as hell. And it's because they're clip shows. They're basically going over an arc in Gundam Seed.
It's just like doing a rehash.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, a retelling of what's happened, and you're like.
And so at this point, like I'm actually gonna go a little bit above you. I'm gonna go 3.5. And it's simply because of that initiation. I love the fact they brought that back one more time, to be able to highlight it in the Gundams. And then open up the ceremonies. But it was a good episode. It actually did kind of not only say like where the fighters have come, but also made some claims that is going to get viewers watching the next episode to see if they can get honored. So like you went a 3, I went a 3.5. So let's move on into episode 26. A new weapon, erupting burning finger or erupting god finger in the translation. And the first thing that we got to talk about is we got a new opening, which in my opinion, this is the best opening that G Gundam has, which is called Trust You Forever. And it's basically introducing the whole new Neo Hong Kong arc with Burning Gundam in there. Compared to Flying in the Sky, which was the older opening, what did you think of Trust You Forever?
It was a good opening.
I liked it. I like how, because it's kind of setting a softer tone for it, which is kind of, in a way, hinting at maybe a blossoming romance between Domon and Rain, but at the same time also kind of hinting at, okay, in this tournament we're going to have some problems, and we're going to have to take them on as a team, and kind of highlighting all of the different Gundam fighters that we're following in a better light, kind of thing. So you got to see like a good moment with Saisaishi, you got to see a good moment with Chibity and his girls, you got to see George kind of staring off into the distance, and then you got to see Argo in the middle of a crowd just being Argo.
he's like, I am being surrounded by all these people.
They have lots of people around me. You didn't really get to see anything between him and Nastasha, but you also got to have some big hints at like, okay, Domon's entire character has changed, and you might see that in this episode from here on. And immediately we get that because it highlights a battle between Zeus Gundam and Nether Gundam, which does not go well for Nether Gundam. In fact, it's pretty short for Nether Gundam. He loses his head section pretty quickly. And we find out that Neo Grease's Zeus Gundam is the odds-on favorite to win. So that already kind of sets a high mark for Neo Grease. But then Wan Yunfa is like, okay, who do I set up for Domon's first match? He decides, okay, you know what? Put him up against Neo Grease. And by the way, I love how he sets up this fight where he's got this giant chessboard in front of him of all the Gundams, and then they just move to each other when they're about to fight, kind of thing. I like that concept. What did you think of it?
That was pretty awesome.
Like that bleeds ego, doesn't it? Like he has the money to do this kind of thing. But the cool part is that Master kind of comes in, and now we kind of also establish a new train of thought for Domon, which is we're going to put him up against the strongest competitors and see if he survives, kind of thing, which would make sense for Master Asia, right? So Wang Yunfa is also kind of buying into that philosophy and sets him up against Neo Grease. We then cut. So first of all, do you have an issue with how they're doing that? I like it because it makes sense for Master Asia.
Oh, yeah.
It makes sense in the fact that he would put him up against the strongest opponents, because if he can't beat the strongest opponents, then he's not fit to go fight Master Asia. We then cut to the hotel where the Neo Japan delegation is going to be staying, and Domon hates it and is walking out and is going to find his own place to stay.
Yeah, but it's like, why would you hate that? Is it just because of all the people?
It's probably like, because we've seen pictures of it. It's like it's a cushy suite, and that's probably why he doesn't like it. Remember, he's lived a lot of his life in the Guyana Highlands, having to camp out in the wilderness. It's probably just too cushy for him.
True.
Even though his family's house was probably just as cushy, but never mind. Rain tries to talk him out of it. Doesn't really work. Then they run into Kurado and Dr. Mikamura, who then tell him who his first fight is up against, Neo Grease. Very excited about it. Very confident in his Burning Gundam being able to take out the victory. And basically, while he's off looking for another place, he is full of confidence. He's like, no, me and my Burning Gundam, along with Shining Gundam, we're going to win. We're going to win this fight for not just for Neo Japan, but for my dad, kind of thing, and get my dad out of prison. Which somehow ends up at the docks where Neo Grease is, and so he sees Zeus Gundam and decides to go look at it. I'm pretty sure that competitors are not allowed anywhere near competitors' Gundams, but Domon gets pretty close to it. I'd say he was at a good staring distance of it. I think he would be in trouble. But while he's in his overconfidence mode, he then gets to meet the Neo Grease Gundam fighter, Markalot. It doesn't go well for Domon.
No.
It doesn't. You could argue Markalot is probably bigger than Argo.
And Domon seems to
Would we argue that? Is he bigger than Argo? Is he taller?
Well, almost the same, if not taller than Argo.
He's got to at least be Argo's height and Argo's build.
But but Domon seems to think he can take any of the strongest opponents and not realize he cannot.
Until Markalot doesn't even wince after a kick from Domon, which kind of throws Domon off. And I want to say a Hulk Loki moment begins to happen between Domon and Markalot, where, you know what I'm talking about, right? Loki gets thrown around, beauty god. That happens with Markalot, and Domon is like, what the crap? This guy's a lot stronger than I thought he was, which is kind of weird because he kind of handled this in a previous episode. Like, Argo was bigger than him, and his solution in the Neo Canada episode was to figure out a technique that would beat Argo. Why the F is he not remembering it here?
I don't know. He just seems to think he can even
and nobody's going to tell me Markalot's taunts are why he doesn't remember. Come on! The only difference between Argo and Markalot is Markalot likes to run his mouth quite a bit. Argo's kind of quiet. We're just like, really? You forgot that you learned this special technique to handle both... You could Argo both Argo and Andrew Graham, but now you just forgot it. You just forgot it. Okay. Well, Markalot's like, I'm done with this.
I think his overconfidence of thinking he can beat any opponent has really...
Did it ignite his selective memory?
It blew up in his face.
It really did. And so Markalot's like, I'm done with this. He throws him out into the water, and we thought Domon drowned, because he was just like, ugh. He's just like going down and down and down, and he's not caring. He's like, I got beat. I hate it when anime does that. I really do.
I hurt my pride.
I hurt my pride. Let me show you on the doll where it touched me. And so he then wakes up in an old fisherman's vessel. Because the fisherman actually found him out there and rescued him. That
would have been hilarious that if... when Rain's looking for Domon and, he's in the water.
Yeah, we should mention that. When he refuses to stay with them, Rain goes out to look for him to try and convince him again, and she basically spends all night trying to look for him.
Yeah, but I would think it would be 10 times more funny if she's like, I cannot seem to find him, and you see Domon just floating right past her, and she doesn't
They kind
notice.
of hint that.
It's hard to tell, but...
They kind of hinted it when she's calling Dr. Mikamura. And all of a sudden, then you switch over to Domon, who's like floating in the harbor.
Yeah, but it'd be kind of funny if you just see him in the distance floating by, and she's just like talking on the phone, like, I don't know where to look.
Domon and Rain have a very peculiar relationship. Anyway, so Domon wakes up, and he gets to meet up with this old fisherman who saved him, along with his two little kids that live with him. I don't think we ever find out the grandfather's name, but the kids' names are Hoy and Hai, I think?
I can't
remember. It's like Hoy and Mai or something like that, but it's a little boy and a little girl. And they're... Already things are not off to a good start because Domon's abrasive attitude is not embraced by the kids. The old man kind of laughs it off. And while they're all eating breakfast together... Domon's very clearly showing that he has lost a lot of confidence. And it's also emphasized by a bad dream he had where basically he got a butt kicked to him and butt kicked by Markalot in a dream.
Kind of like him in the place of the other Gundam, that Neo Grease already challenged.
Yeah, pretty much he put himself in Neil Holland's place.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Kind of went through that same scenario.
So at that point, it looks like Domon's lost a lot of confidence. And the old man decides he's going to help out by asking Mai to give him the Wanderbug powder. And he's like, what is that? And even she's like, Grandpa, that's just... And he's like, no, I want the Wanderbug powder. And then he goes in to say that the Wanderbug is well known in the animal kingdom for taking on creatures 10 times their size and coming out the victor. It's basically one of those placebo stories to get your confidence back kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure any viewer kind of gets this as like the Wanderbug, really? I always thought it was the Wonderbug that he was saying. So, and I think that's even going to be the title of this episode. It's the Wonderbug. Use the Wonderbug, Domon. So it seems, Domon's willing to use some powder, and Wonderbug powder, and eats up his breakfast, and is immediately confident and able to take on Mark-a-Lot. And the funniest thing about this is that the Gundam fight is about to start between Zeus Gundam and Burning Gundam. Domon's nowhere to be seen because he's off eating breakfast in this fisherman's boat. And it gets disturbing enough that the other Shuffle Alliance members go out and look for him. So the fisherman agrees to get him there fast in his little fishing dinghy. And we get to see Chibity and George and Saisaishi and Argo all give him, "Good luck, Domon, you can do this." And Domon's like, "Yeah, I've got this in the bag." And we also get, in my opinion, one of the best songs happening during this, and it's going to be featured throughout this arc. I don't know the Japanese name for it, but it's translated as Tenkyoken here. And so at that point, you have this really cool building up music to build up Domon, and eventually he makes his way to Burning Gundam, and Rain is overjoyed to see him at that point. We get to see a whole new sequence for him activating the mobile trace system, which kind of, in my opinion, is better because it reflects his training into his serene state of mind. Because he's no longer looking like he's in a lot of pain. He actually looks like he's enduring it because it doesn't matter to him anymore.
Yeah.
And so I like that concept. Also, the fact that he gets into a basic martial arts stance to then showcase that he is in control of the Burning Gundam. And the way that they time this music is perfect for the scene. But the battle is underway, and immediately, let's talk the specs of Zeus Gundam. Let's go into the specs really quick before we go into Victors and stuff like that. So now you've officially seen Burning Gundam in action, and you've seen the abilities that it has at its disposal. Let's get into the specs for Burning Gundam. What did you think of now that you've seen its attacks?
I think it was an awesome upgrade, you know?
Is it better or worse than Shining Gundam?
Oh, I think I liked it more.
I love Burning Gundam, God Gundam, whatever you want to call it. It really works. And one of the main reasons I love it is because of those tail fins in the back, that when he's ready to do his burning finger, they then go into a formation and have what looks like a fiery ring, kind of representative of the rising sun of Japan, behind him. And it's collecting heat. And it looks really, really cool to be able to see that. And then he actually has his, for lack of a better term, his wrist guards come in and actually act like a mitt for the intense heat that the burning finger emits. I thought that was a really great touch to it, including adding like dragon claws that go up in the meantime. I love how they do that. The aesthetic of Burning Gundam looks really, really great. It still has other weapons at its disposal. It does have Vulcans or big Gatling guns on its shoulders, as well as two beam sabers that are put in kind of a samurai-esque position. So overall, yeah, it's badass. It actually looks a lot better, in my opinion, than Shining Gundam. Even though Shining Gundam does have a few things going for it, I love Burning Gundam and how it looks. But yeah, what did you think of the rising sun thing behind it?
That just got that impact.
It had that really cool funky rainbow to it. And yeah, it was actually really good. Now let's get into Zeus Gundam. So Zeus Gundam, primarily through a lot of this fight, is showcased on its chariot. And as we said, this is one of two Gundams that has like a horse component to it. Which is interesting to see, but like, you know, it doesn't really add anything aesthetically aside from he can run Gundams over. But when we actually get to see Zeus Gundam itself, what did you think of the power and specs of it? I'm not as impressed. I know why a lot of people like Zeus Gundam and why it's considered to be a favorite, but a lot of it is based around Mark-a-Lot's approach to fighting, which is, you know, big bully kind of thing, throw people around and win. I think it's cool that he had a big old thunder looking hammer.
But it kind of at least fits the motif of
it does.
With the thunder thing. But
I even like that they put a metal beard on it to reflect Mark-a-Lot's beard. That was actually a cool idea.
I mean, you would kind of see him like act like, you know, like if he was like a like a Zeus type figure with, you know, thunder-based attacks and.
Well, they kind of make it look like with that hammer that it is like, you know, Zeus holding a lightning bolt and throwing it at somebody.
Yeah.
When it's really just a big old hammer that conducts electricity that he hits somebody with it.
I mean, it's kind of what you expect from that type of a Gundam, but it's not. I just think it's not quite as unique and impressive, like compared to Burning Gundams.
Yeah, it's definitely lacking, although it does look cool in its own right.
It's cool, but it's.
I also am not a fan of the wings, and it's just because the feathers and the wings are too spread apart, in my opinion. It would have looked cool if it was like a full-on wing kind of thing, like Wings of Icarus, but instead they have like big spaces between the feathers. And I get it, tech, but you know, because it's got rockets, but it does kind of hurt the aesthetic, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it is significantly less impressive, but it is still a cool Gundam in its own right. So the battle ensues, and Burning Gundam becomes the first ever to knock Markalot off of his chariot by beheading the horse. Ouch. But then we get to see like Markalot go all out on Burning Gundam, and it looks like it's going to be a repeat of their first fight. Until Domon learns how to activate the erupting burning finger. And then we have a significant change in the fight, because immediately when when Zeus Gundam's coming down with his lightning of judgment, the hammer, he grabs the hammer and immediately does the burning finger through the hammer. And then we get to see another cool feature of the burning finger, which is, and now heat end. And the ring behind him explodes into Zeus Gundam. And as far as we can tell, nothing was left. Because even Markalot is like on the ground, just like, what the hell happened? But it was actually kind of cool to see the ring actually have a use, right? Where it just goes in, like it goes through the burning finger into the Gundam target and just explodes on it. I love that concept. That's why I love Burning Gundam.
You just wonder how they didn't manage, you know, the pilot didn't seem to.
I know, right? How did he not, ignite?
Because you'd be like, wouldn't you worry about
Well, and what's weirder, too, is that in later episodes, we're going to see and now heat end, but there's stuff left, like there's mobile suit left over. Okay? Like you could see that the mobile suit's clearly burned, but it's not completely destroyed, like completely incinerated. No, but Zeus Gundam, gone. But not Markalot. He's alive. What? This is like my one downside with this episode is like they should have just kept the consistency of it looks heavily damaged and burnt, but it's still there.
Yeah, because it's like if you're gonna take the chance of destroying a whole Gundam like into nothingness, how would you manage it?
I would think that would be a serious penalty, right? And we do see Zeus Gundam fight again in later episodes. It was like, oh wait, they just had a spare Zeus Gundam? What?
Wouldn't he be considered eliminated, though?
I mean, if you didn't have a Gundam, yeah. But as we see in later episodes, Zeus Gundam comes back for some reason. I guess they just had a spare in the back.
Yeah, but it's just like, where's the fine line of saying, okay, well, you're eliminated, so you're not moving on, you know?
Well, in this particular, in the preliminaries, it's a win-loss bracket. So at that point, like, I'm guessing for wins, you get 2 points. For losses, you get 1 or 0. And so the ones with the highest points are the ones that advance.
Well, that's true, but I'm just like, how many chances do you get to be able until you're eliminated?
But no, you're absolutely right. If you have no Gundam, then how can you fight? But
well, I can see like how many Gundams are you allowed to participate with? You know, like you could probably have spares.
And that's fine. If they have a spare, then that's fine. Like, because they can repair.
I mean,
it's like, I guess they had a spare in the back.
Like, I mean, it's like, how many strikes until if you lose how many times, you know, it's like, well, you're done.
No idea, and it's not really stated.
That just doesn't make sense.
Kind of, yeah. So, Domon wins this and wins his first fight. So he's lived up to his promise that he's going to win every fight. But that kind of pretty much wraps up a new weapon, erupting burning finger. So final thoughts on this episode. I'm giving it a 4 out of 4.5 because it had a great dip into it and then a really great build up into the fight between Burning Gundam and Zeus Gundam. I'm giving it a 4.5, man. The only thing I would say that goes against it is kind of the opening bit. I didn't need to see the Wonder Bug or Corrado and Domon arguing.
I would also give it a 4.5.
It's a really good fight.
Just because, I mean, you half expect that Domon was going to get really too overconfident and cocky that he thought he was going to win, and then realizes the reality that that's not going to be the case, and then he ends up coming across this person who he seemed to actually really liked, and he's like he's gonna be like the guy who's like gonna be like the voice of reason or something, like to mentor him through the.
Oh, you mean the old man?
Yeah.
Well, I mean they kind of dismissed that he knew that the old man was feeding him a load, but but they do actually also say that Domon will be staying on the fishing boat from here on in.
Yeah, but he'll seem like he'll be the guy to give advice, on circumstance.
Possibly, yeah. Like he's going to be the old mentor figure that Domon can get along with, unlike Corrado, which we very clearly see Domon doesn't like. So then we move into episode 27. Hang on, Domon, Triumph of the Restored Faith. Okay. I will tell you one major detractor of this episode is that even though there is a bout with Burning Gundam, the main focus that we follow in this is a group of 3 boys. I don't know the other 2, but the main one is Cha, who has like a big Gundam hat, and he loves Gundams, and he wants to pilot one. And this plot line kills this episode for me. I love the fights that happen in it as well, but I do not like that I have to follow these namby-pamby 10-year-old twats the entire time. Because the whole basis of this episode for Cha is he wants to pilot a Gundam. And he will get to, and it'll blow up in his face, but we'll get there when we get there. I think the episode starts off in... Is this the one where Shadow Gundam was facing off against Viking Gundam? No, that was the next one. That was the next one where Shadow Gundam was fighting.
I thought it was Chibity for some.
Oh, yes, because Cha and his crew come up on Gundam Maxter facing Gundam Zebra
or something like that.
And Maxter obviously takes the win. And then we go to Wang Yungfa, who has now decided the next strong opponent that Domon must face, which is Cobra Gundam of Neo India. And immediately we cut back over to Domon, who's having kind of a heartfelt moment with the kids as well as Rain, which Chibity promptly wrecks, as the only way Chibity can, by trying to ask Rain on a date. I don't know why. He's got 4 other girls that he could go ask out. I don't know. Maybe he sees them as little sisters. I don't know. But the best part that immediately refutes this is the little girl,
I thought
immediately chastises Chibity.
No, I thought it was the boy.
Was it the boy?
Yeah, it was
boy?
It was the boy,
okay.
Because
that's right.
The girl was on.
Hoy's like, no, and the best line for Andrea to hear was, "Rain belongs to Domon." Do you have a few thoughts on that?
I'm surprised Domon didn't go.
Oh, Domon was like, oh. Damn, don't put me in this. Because immediately Rain's like, oh, really? And Chibity's like, And the girl looks down at Domon and is like, is that the case? He's like, it's complicated. Which, wrong answer for Domon. Thoroughly convinced. If you heard me saying that, I'd probably be in the ocean at that point, right? This promptly blows up in Domon's face. It wasn't even Domon's fault. It was Hoy being Hoy.
Yeah, because he's like.
But I this again. I need to get better at taking pictures of your reactions for these things so I can put them up. But as soon as he said Rain belongs to Domon, you were like, what?
I know.
What the hell? And Chibity kind of points out, like, they're not really boyfriend and girlfriend. That's why I can ask Rain out on a date, which gets even worse for Rain. I think Rain was about ready to kick everybody's ass at that point. And this prompts them all to go out to the market together. So I guess Chibity drove them in his Corelander. That's how they got there. But promptly, we get to see that Cha and his little gang are watching Domon Kashu. And saying like, oh, well, that's Gundam Maxter's pilot, so he must be strong, right? And I doubt that anybody would not know Domon Kashu at this point, but they kind of act like they don't know him. Which is funny because Chibity and Chibity notices that Domon is a little on edge. He's like, I don't know why you're worried about it. And Domon's like, I feel like somebody's watching us. And we already know that Cha's watching them, and Chibity's like, oh, come on, Domon. Everybody knows who you are. Everybody's watching you. To which Domon's response is, yeah, you're probably right. Until now. And then he jumps out, and we think he's going to go pull out Cha.
For some reason.
And his crew. But he goes past them.
I didn't think Chibity was with them, though. I thought it was
Chibity was with them.
Oh, then he must have been.
Chibity was with them. So,
it was. I know it was the kids and Rain and.
Yeah, but he was also the one saying like everybody's gonna be looking at you, kind of thing. And so at that point, Domon jumps over them, and then we find out that Neo India's Gundam fighter Shijima has been watching them. And Domon is then promptly challenged to a fight with Shijima and his giant ass Cobra. I'm sorry, there's no snake that's that big. And no Cobra that is that big. That is like one big ass mutant Cobra. Am I wrong about that?
No.
Like that, did you look at that and go, huh?
That's huge.
I don't think snakes are supposed to be that big, but it looks like Shijima's gimmick is that he's a big snake charmer. And so at that point, he tries to fight off the Cobra, but Domon fails and gets constricted or constricted by the Cobra, which I don't think Cobras are constricting snakes. So I already have a question there. I think the distinct difference is with boa constrictors and things like that, they don't really have venom. They have the constriction to be their deal, but Cobras have venom. So I don't know. Maybe I've got that wrong, and somebody who watches a lot of Animal Planet can point us in the right direction. But yeah, he's pretty much tied down. And out of the flute by the way, I don't know why this was in there, because I don't think the flute would work otherwise. A dagger pops out of the end of the snake charming flute. I'm pretty sure if there was a dagger in there, he wouldn't be able to make music with it, right? I don't think so, but again, somebody can point out otherwise.
It's anime.
It's anime. It's anime.
You can't explain everything.
Because anime. And so he's going in for the kill, but then Chibity and the crew catch up to Domon, and Shijima promptly leaves with his Cobra. Which already does not... It leaves Domon pretty pissed, because he got caught in Shijima's trap. But then they find out promptly that they will be fighting against Neo India, and decide to go back to the boat to see if it was the same guy that attacked Domon. They promptly find out, yes, it is him. And Domon then decides he's going to go over to the warehouse where Burning Gundam is and go prep it for the fight tomorrow. Chibity's just kind of there for some reason. I'm not sure why. Chibity's just being Chibity.
He just wants to be there because.
And the kids are getting ready to make dinner, except for Hoy. Hoy is off with Cha and his gang because Cha has thought of an interesting plan to be able to pilot a Gundam that involves Hoy. And Hoy is off with Cha's gang. But this also prompts another interesting joke that can be done that you also had a prompt reaction with, where Mai basically says, like, I don't have Hoy and the old man's not here. We're having trouble making dinner. Could somebody come down and help? And Domon immediately answers with, hey, you ought to go help her. Then you can learn actual cooking. And the look off of Rain's face. If looks could kill.
I'm surprised she didn't smack him for that.
Well, he was halfway across the room at that point. And he's a martial artist. I'm pretty sure he could dodge. He probably wouldn't because it's rain. But if looks could kill, like everybody in the boat would be dead from rain.
Oh my god.
And the look off you too. You're just like, really? We're going there again? That was great.
It's like, Domon, you better just stop with those remarks because it's gonna end up really bouncing back at you hard.
Yeah, funniest thing. Domon, as you're kind of learning, Domon has a chronic case of foot and mouth disorder. And it's kind of hard to avoid. But we then find out about Hoy being with Cha and his gang, and they're basically using Hoy to distract Domon so that Cha can get into the Burning Gundam and pilot it. Go on a little bit of a joyride, as it were. So their plan goes into motion. They basically peer pressure Hoy into helping them. And Hoy gets him off Hoy goes up to Domon, gets him off the dock for it, and immediately Cha just races in on his bike and tries to get into the Burning Gundam, which blows up in his face because the mobile trace system, turns out, can actually injure people if it's not used properly. You were asking about this a while back. This is the episode I was alluding to. If you make a wrong move, it can break every bone in your body. That's a dangerous piece of technology, right?
Yeah.
So you could easily get injured by putting on the mobile trace system wrong or having something go wrong with it. And Domon tries to get Cha out and gets thrown off of Burning Gundam, falls directly on the floor, and it looks like he's injured his shoulder because of this incident. So, Domon has every right to be pissed right now, and he's pissed at all of the kids, including Hoy. And Cha starts to notice that, he's got a sore shoulder after being saved by Domon. But Shijima then promptly kind of shows up afterwards to make fun of the weakness. So Domon immediately assumes Cha was put up to this by Shijima. Which then, it creates a whole other level of anger with Domon. We then cut to the fight between Cobra Gundam and Burning Gundam.
I just love it that he decides the only way to fix that situation was to punch the kid in the stomach.
I mean, it made sense. The advice that he was giving the kid was, if you move wrong, this could break every bone in your body, so I'm going to knock you unconscious. So you don't do that. I like that concept, but yeah, it's kind of a typical martial arts thing to do. If people are not behaving properly, you punch them in the gut and then they pass out. So, yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of dumb, but to me, it kind of made sense here. Like, you had to get the kid to stop moving, right? Okay, knock him unconscious.
It's like, you need to relax.
Yeah, and that's what he did. So we cut then to the fight between Cobra Gundam and Burning Gundam. And it's pretty much going the way that the previous fight went. The Cobra is immediately wrapping itself around Burning Gundam and has it constricting. And we think that things are pretty much over, which then builds up guilt within Cha and Hoy, specifically Cha, because he thinks it's his fault that because of Domon's injury, he's going to lose. So then Hoy and Cha and gang decide to raid the Neo Japan booth. I don't even know how they got there. And basically say, like, we're sorry, Domon, we didn't mean to do that. Shijima didn't put us up to it. I just wanted to ride the Gundam.
Oh my god. That's almost as bad as the whole...
Do you see why I say Cha is a problem in this episode?
I know, it's almost as bad as the whole Maria Louise kidnapping thing. They just want attention.
Yes. And that's why it's stupid and why there's a ton of problems with this. So Domon listens to them and immediately says, oh, okay, well then I'll just go ahead and win this, because apparently he had a plan all along, which is, and I still go to this day saying this, is the most disturbing image in this entire series, where he dislocates his shoulder, which then prompts Burning Gundam to dislocate its shoulder, which allows for him to get out of the Cobra constriction and use an erupting burning finger with the other hand to win against Shijima. Which is kind of cool. Like, first of all, let's get into the specs of Cobra Gundam. That's pretty cool, right? Because it's just basically a giant Cobra, except then you can see it separates and it can become like a Gundam, as well as, and we can even see the snake is in the mobile tray system. So at that point, like, it's not wearing a fight suit or anything like that, but we're guessing it's controlling the snake portion of it. That's kind of cool in a weird way. And almost kind of makes us go, I wonder if this could be done in other ways. But, yeah, Domon wins the fight. Cha promptly apologizes. Domon forgives them, the way that you would expect this episode to end. Final thoughts. So what did you think of Cobra Gundam, by the way? Because you didn't give your thoughts.
I thought that was a interesting design for a Gundam.
Yeah, I kind of wish we would see it again, but
especially when it came out of the pot.
Yeah, that was the other cool thing. So, like, but I love the fact that Domon chastises it. Why are you coming out of a pot? This coming from the guy whose Gundam would rise from a giant sakura blossom. I don't think you're one to judge, Domon. I'm just saying. But final thoughts on Hang On, Domon, Triumph of the Restored Faith.
Oh, did we even...
I've already given my thoughts on Cobra Gundam. I love it. I love that it's detachable, that you can then have Shijima be the Gundam portion of it. I love it. Mm-hmm. I think it's a really great design. But yeah, final thoughts on Hang On, Domon, Triumph of the Restored Faith. I'm going to knock this thing down to a 2.5 because the fight is cool. Gross, but it's cool. But Cha, the whole Cha storyline ruins this episode. Ruins it. And the sad part is that Shijima is kind of a cool villain in a weird way. Like, he's a cool adversary to fight. Where he's got like the whole Neo-India kind of thing going for him, as well as the snake charmer gimmick. He looks really cool, and he sounds even better, but you had to deal with the three little brats. And the fact that they wanted to pilot the Gundam, but they couldn't pilot the Gundam. 2.5. 2.5 for me. What about you?
I would just give it at least a 3. I mean, even though the kids were annoying as crap, but there were a few funny moments.
There were a few funny moments in between. But Rain belonging to Domon notwithstanding.
But
you know what? I'll go up to a 3. Yeah, that moment was pretty good.
That moment was great. But I also liked when Domon just smacked the kid. It's like, you really are. It's like, you are stupid for trying that stunt. Yes.
And probably one of the best moments involving Cha. Because I hated Cha as a character. This episode is still hard to watch for me because I hate that little kid character. So then we move on to the final episode, which is Domon targeted the assassin's staff. So we have 2 wins for Domon. His next fight is going to be up against Neo Nepal's Mandala Gundam, which at the beginning of the episode, we find out something very interesting about Mandala Gundam. It has won all of its victories in the past 11 months and in the final round due to default. What that basically means is the other fighter doesn't show up. And we find this out because it cuts to a guy we are presuming is a Gundam fighter running away from something in the middle of the night, and it looks like he's assassinated. So that's how he's winning. They basically hinted at really, really early on, he's an assassin, ergo, that's why he wins by default. He kills his target, and they're all Gundam fighters. Kind of thing. And we should also point out another beginning bout that we have is Shadow Gundam versus Viking Gundam, which is kind of cool to look at. Like, it does kind of showcase Schwartzbruder as a competent fighter, and it makes Neo Norway's fighter look like a dimwit, for lack of a better term. He didn't look good in this fight. Shadow Gundam kind of wiped the floor with him. Am I wrong?
No.
No, not really.
I think
Although it was cool to see him pull a Naruto and use the substitution jutsu.
Yeah, and we all probably thought, oh man, he got impaled by...
Yeah, we thought Shadow Gundam was done for, and then all of a sudden it's Viking Gundam's boat that's there. And I can't even remember. Oh yeah, that's right. He used his tonfa to cut off his arms. And then the Viking Gundam promptly falls in the water, and that's where it's considered a loss. But yeah, so we had that.
and he ends up saving the pilot.
Yeah, we had the ultimate sportsmanship. He saves the pilot in his hand. Oh god, it's kind of corny for Shadow Gundam, but it does showcase that he's a competent fighter. It doesn't do that for Neo Norway. But moving on. So then Burning Gundam, or Domon finds out he's going to be facing Neo Nepal's Mandala Gundam. How does he find out? Shibidi finds him out in the middle of the street and brings up his a newspaper of his next opponent and how he wins by like nothing but defaults. And so it then gets into a discussion of like, okay, who is this guy? We find out, I think later in the episode, but I'll go ahead and point it out here. The Gundam fighter for Neo Nepal, Kiral Makito, I think is his name. Kiral. We're gonna go with Kiral.
All right.
Kiral was a competent Gundam fighter at one point, and actually had a really cool Gundam design, by the way, with big old beam claws. I want to see that again.
Like
Gundam.
Wolverine claws.
No, like Vega from Street Fighter claws,
Okay.
like really long. Because Wolverine's like end at a certain point. These were way extended.
Well, just because they were more extended does not mean they kind of...
Well, okay, Wolverine, yes.
Well, yeah, like, it's just like... whoosh.
But these were like lightsaber claws.
Yeah, I know.
How come Star Wars has never done this? I'm calling you out too, Star Wars. And in his last bout, where he was like the odds-on favorite of the 11th Gundam fight to win, his claws get stuck in the ground, and his opponent, in the middle of his final blow, does damage to the head section, which then causes damage to Kiral, making him lose his sight. So he's blind, but because he couldn't compete in the Gundam fights anymore due to his blindness, he then switched to being an assassin, and has now earned his way back into being a Gundam fighter via being an assassin. Which then prompts Domon to realize that they are being watched, and it is by Kiral. And we get kind of a cool fight moment in the city where Domon's trying to avoid being assassinated by Kiral. In broad daylight, might I add. Like, Kiral don't give any Fs. He is going to kill you. And we get a couple of really good moments with this. Like, the only thing that got featured in his previous assassination was that he had a staff. But then we find out through Domon kind of overpowering it that the staff actually has a hidden sword within it. And that's probably how he assassinated the other guy, is he just used his hidden blade to do it. Yeah, we get a really cool chase scene with Domon, Kiral, and even Shibidi and his Corelander to some extent, trying to take care of Kiral while Kiral's trying to assassinate Domon. What did you think of that scene?
That was intense.
It was actually kind of an intense fight scene, right? It was one of those few times where it was really cool to see outside of the Gundams.
But then we all had to question each other. It's like, how come this is not considered illegal for Gundam fighters to be fighting each other before their Gundam match?
Anime. I agree with you. There's lots of rules being breached here.
Heck, even like in Pokemon.
Markalot and him fought. Shijima and him fought. And then Kiral and him fought. I guess there's no illegal rule against it.
Well, apparently even...
And Wong doesn't care.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, even in Pokemon, you know, when they were having their, you know, their leagues, they're like, you guys are forbidden to be battling against each other before the match. It's like...
Yeah, it's... There's a major problem with consistency, but anime, it's still cool. So Domon then kind of decides, after realizing what Kirol can do, he brings out Saisaishi to help him kind of figure out a weakness to Kirol.
And that's just kind of funny.
It's actually kind of cool to see it happen, but he still can't figure out, like, okay, I can get past the staff, but I can't get past the blade, kind of thing. And so that's kind of a bit of a conflict for him. We then cut to Kirol, who has a very aggressive relationship with the Neo-Nepal government. They are actually mad at him. We actually find out that it's not just Kirol who's assassinating. Neo-Nepal is paying him to assassinate his opponents. And so they're officially condoning these actions, which maybe in the first 11 months might have been worthwhile, but in the final round, it doesn't really make sense. But they chastise Kirol for not getting the job done, which Kirol promptly shows to them that, like, it doesn't matter that I didn't get the first attempt, I will get him eventually. And the way that he shows this is by, they're like in this this temple room with a bunch of candles lit, and Kirol with his hidden blade just cuts all the candles, you know, like it's one of those classic anime sword moments.
Yeah, and you're surprised that the place didn't catch on fire.
By the way, should we also mention that Kirol cuts a trolley in half in that fight scene? That was great.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. I love that. It really just kind of showcases that Kirol is a person not to be trifled with.
And it's just kind of funny that, you know, like, Saisaishi just was willing to help Domon out figure out how to. It's like,
I don't think you're allowed to do that either.
I mean, you don't want to be helping your opponents that you eventually.
I think Neo China would have a few things to say about that. But then again, I also think Neo America would have a problem with Chibity showing Domon who his opponent is.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, wow, I know you guys are trying to be kind of loyal since you guys are considered the Shuffle Alliance, but you guys are still opponents.
Uh-huh.
You're going to be fighting each other eventually.
Seriously, they ought to lock them up in their hotel rooms. Seriously.
Are you guys having some secret meetings?
Oh, and it gets worse because we cut back to Domon, who's still trying to figure out how to do the hidden blade, where he is then promptly confronted by Schwartz in Shadow Gundam to remind him of his serene state of mind, and then that will be the answer to him beating Kirol. So not only are you letting an opponent advise another opponent, but he somehow smuggled his Gundam out of the dock to do this.
And throw a log at him.
He's like,
He's like,
I think that would be in the papers the next day, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Neo Germany tries to assassinate Neo Japan by throwing a log at him. Like, what? They forget they're in a city environment. People are going to see Saisaishi helping Domon Kashu. And if they're reporters, they're gonna report about it. They didn't think about this. They didn't think about it. But it's okay. Shonen anime.
And Domon just bringing out his sword and, you know.
And cutting the log. And this is like the reminder of the serene state of mind. Mm-hmm. We then cut to the fight between Mandala Gundam and Burning Gundam. And really quick, specs for Mandala Gundam. What did you think of that? It's basically a giant bell with a Gundam section to it, like a chest and arms, but it's all held together by like these prayer bead balls kind of thing.
I guess it's fitting, but it's weird to me.
Yeah, this is one of the designs I've never been able to get behind in G Gundam because I'm like sitting there going, okay, for an assassin, this makes absolutely no sense.
I think the previous one looked better.
Yeah, the claws, that actually made sense for an assassin. In fact, they probably should have just flipped it. Except the problem is that the claws were so cool, I don't think you could have done a staff that way. But yeah, so this is one of the Gundams in G Gundam that I can't get behind. It looks really dumb.
Especially, how could it be very mobile?
It's not, yeah. Like, they kind of point out that there are rockets in the bell, but
still,
we're talking a lot of metal having to move around.
But it's not one of my favorites.
And yet, this is supposed to be an assassin who's like, Shadow Gundam makes sense for an assassin's Gundam. And like you said, Kirol's previous Gundam makes sense that way, but not Mandala Gundam. Mandala Gundam looks dumb. in my opinion. I have no problem saying it.
It's probably not one of my favorites.
No, it's not. But we get to have a really cool knockdown drag-out fight between Kirol and Burning Gundam within it, which we all kind of sit there and go, how can Kirol be this fast in a giant bell? But it basically gets cut down to that pivotal anime moment where two samurai are about to do one final attack, and that will decide the match. That will decide it. And in this case, Domon decides to unveil the erupting burning slash. Hope you liked it. It's never showing up again. At least it's never going to get called that again. And we get to have that moment where they clash, and it looks like Domon gets hurt, but then Kirol's entire Gundam falls apart. And Domon wins. But through that, Kirol was actually able to see the light of friendship emitting from Domon, and it renewed his faith in humanity. And so now Kirol goes off into the distance to atone for his sins. Oh, and I also love the fact, or the concept of, when they can clearly see Kirol's losing, Neotopol thinks to self-detonate the Gundam so that all of Kirol's assassinations kind of die with him.
Mm-hmm.
And Schwartz comes in, takes the tiara off of his mask, and destroys the button so that they can't kill Kirol. You pretty much hit the button, Schwartz. He should have just blown up. But okay. But yeah, he goes off to atone for his sins, and that's pretty much the end of the episode.
Isn't this also the one where Domon actually uses a piece of clothing to stop?
Yes, he actually uses his headband to try and stop. That's how he finds out that Kirol's blind.
True.
Is he knocks the weird glasses off of Kirol's face. He's not as good at it as Master Asia.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that the headband didn't break in half through his misuse.
I'm surprised
It was still pretty cool, though. It was like, oh yeah, he is pretty competent compared to Master Asia. Final thoughts on Domon targeted the assassin staff. I'm going to keep it at a 3 because there's a lot of problems with Mandala Gundam, with Kirol himself, with a lot of the rules being broken. Like, it's a cool fight. Would I say it's cooler than, say, like, Burning Gundam versus Zeus Gundam or Cobra Gundam? No, not really.
I would say 3, yeah.
Yeah, it's a 3 out of 5 as far as I'm concerned, because there's a lot of problems that are happening in this whole episode. And we mentioned a few of them, like, why is Domon able to work with all of his former Shuffle Alliance allies? Why is Schwartz able to take his Gundam out of a dock and throw a log at Domon? You know, like, and also Mandala Gundam. I don't care. Like, people are probably going to make arguments as to why Mandala Gundam was able to be as fast as it was. I don't buy it. The giant bell is a huge hindrance as far as I'm concerned.
Especially with a tiny body.
Yeah, like the tiny body does not justify the big bell. It should have been like, if they were going to go for an Assassin's Gundam, it should have looked like Shadow or even his previous Gundam. But no, I'm not buying it. But that's all the episodes that we have. So let's get into our final questions here. What do we consider the best episode that we watched? I have no problem saying that it is A New Weapon, Erupting Burning Finger. I love the buildup of that episode.
With Zeus Gundam?
Yeah, with Zeus Gundam. I love the fight with Zeus Gundam. I love the buildup to it. I think it's got a very slow build at the beginning, but it was still awesome as an episode. What about you?
I think that was probably the best out of the 4.
Out of the 4, okay. The worst episode out of the 4. I don't have to say it. Hang on, Domon, Triumph of the Restored Faith. Because fuck Cha. Fuck him. Fuck it. Like, the clip show at the beginning of this was better than that because I didn't have to follow three little 10-year-old twats who want to pilot a Gundam and don't understand, like, how difficult it is.
Yeah, and it's just like, you don't deserve to ride a Gundam if you're gonna go and put in the risk of a fighter who's supposed to go fight it and gets injured because of your stupidity. Why do you think I'm like, don't.
And a close second, I mean, but it's better by far, is Domon targeted the assassin staff. I think that also needs to be mentioned because of all of the plot problems with that. But no, I hate Shaw and his little group. I hate him. I absolutely hate him with a burning passion. I would do an erupting burning finger on Shaw and not bat an eye. So with that being said, I'm also going to add this question: the best Gundam we saw this episode, because we are going to get contact with some other Gundams for a couple of episodes after. So the best Gundam that was unveiled here, and your picks are Burning Gundam, Zeus Gundam, Cobra Gundam, and Mandala Gundam.
We don't want to wait till we see all the Gundams?
No.
No?
We will see them eventually. But like of the Gundams that were debuted here. So Zeus, Burning, Cobra, Mandala, and if you want to throw in Viking Gundam and Nether Gundam.
If we don't count Burning Gundam.
Okay.
Out of the,
because Burning Gundam's like the easy win.
Well, you should not count like them, him, his Gundam, or the Shuffle Alliance.
Yes.
Out of all the
let's do that. So like Burning Gundam is the easy win. Out of Zeus, Cobra, Nether, Viking, and Mandala, which one was the best?
Or Zebra, I don't know.
Zebra too.
Because I mean, you saw that one. It's almost a tie between. I would say it's almost a tie between Zeus and Cobra. I've got an interesting compromise for you, because I think you were about to say Zeus. I was going to say Cobra, because here's the thing: I like Zeus's design, but Cobra is I love unique designs within Gundam. True.
They don't happen that often, especially Gundams that can transform. There's usually like one or two in a series, and this one was a really cool transformation where like the Cobra's head was Cobra Gundam. And so at that point, the snake kind of took control of the rest. And I love the fact that the Gundam's head is in the snake's mouth. It looked really good. So for me, that it's Cobra Gundam hands down. But if we were cheating here, I'd also say that that Kiral's first Gundam was awesome.
Well, yeah.
Star Wars, do that. Beam claws. I want to see it.
But even with Zeus, at least, he also had the chariot with the horse, which made it interesting.
Yeah, and it actually kind of makes you think like, okay, so Master Gundam has Funsaiki. What does Funsaiki add to Master Gundam? It does kind of make you wonder, doesn't it? Kind of thing.
But it's interesting that Zeus Gundam was able to, not be, rely on the chariot part of it too.
No, it could hold its own.
Because
it was still doing the same attack, but it could still hold its own. So that being said, so best Gundam there, best moment of these 4 episodes. I think we're well, you go first because I don't want to copy you. And I think I'd copy you at this point.
Best fight moment was probably
or just best moment in general.
Just best moment?
Yeah.
I'm just going to say probably the point where, when you think like Domon was going to lose to Zeus Gundam, and he's like, I am just going to get into that serene state of mind, and he's like, I am going to actually beat you,
So the erupting burning finger that ends, so the first heat end.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's a cool one. Another best moment that I'm going to go ahead and give is that fight scene between Domon and Kiral. That was actually pretty freaking awesome. And showcased Kiral as a legit threat, showcased Domon as a fighter, and even we got to have like some cool like chasing scenes out of that. I'm going to give that one because like I could agree with you that the heat end was cool, but I also want to highlight something else.
Oh yeah.
Worst moment of the DVDs or of the episodes.
By far the kids.
Cha.
Cha.
Okay, so you're saying Cha. Because I don't want to say what you're saying.
It's just being selfish of wanting to ride against them.
The worst moment for me aside from Cha. You know what? I'm gonna give the worst moment to the damn dislocation. I still can't watch that and not cringe. Like I hate it when anime does that, where like you have this heavily constricting and then they dislocate their shoulder. It never sounds fun. It never sounds good. It never sounds awesome. It's just ew. So I'm gonna give it to the dislocation of Burning Gundam's shoulder. Craziest moment in these 4 episodes.
I don't know any crazy moments.
I mean, Domon versus Kirol was pretty crazy, but I think one crazy moment that you would probably want to highlight is oh wait, no, that would be more like a funny moment. I don't know. This is kind of why I like merging craziest with funniest.
That's what I think.
So let's do that. Craziest, funniest moment. So I think I know the one you're gonna bring up.
I still think the most the whole scene with, you know, like when that kid is like, no, Rain belongs to Domon.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna go there.
And the whole cooking thing.
Oh my gosh, it's great. And Rain's look after that is just priceless. Yeah, you're right. That was a really great moment. Another funny moment that I'm just gonna go ahead and highlight is crap. Which episode was it that it happened? Oh. Well, I'm gonna give a crazy moment as well as a funny moment, if that's okay.
Okay.
The craziest moment I'm going to give is the reunion of Master and Domon lighting the torch. I love that moment. It's crazy as hell, and it just brings back like this is their relationship kind of thing. I'm gonna call that a crazy moment because you're right. It's like we wouldn't do this if not forced by Neo Hong Kong government to do it. So I like that moment where they use their fingers to light the torch and do their whole secret handshake. I love that moment. Funniest moment. I've got to go with you. Rain belongs to Domon. That's a great moment as far as I'm concerned. I wish we could have gotten more stuff between the two of them.
Oh, and the skirt, we were like thinking when she was patching up Domon.
Oh yeah, like that thing was like an inch away from showing more panty peek, man. I almost want to look at you and go, would you be caught dead in that dress now? Like it'd be so hard for you to cover up because any action that and these episodes kind of emphasize any action that she takes is easily going to reveal something in that dress. Like, can we change the outfit, please? It's kind of driving me crazy. But yeah, so that's the craziest and funniest moment for me. And is there any others that we want to add in there for the final battle?
I don't think so.
Yeah, let's keep it at that. So that's going to go ahead and wrap up this episode, or these 4 episodes. We hope you guys have enjoyed. When we come back, we will resume even more into the final battle. I know that we are also going to be getting into some battles not specifically centered around Domon, but around the other Shuffle Alliance members as well. So you guys can look forward to that. And until then, it's time for us to do this again, Andrea. Gundam fight!
Ready?
Go!